All right, Anne, feel free to take us away.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Anne. I graduated in 2019 in the IOR department. Prior to the Master of Engineering, I was doing what we call a engineering school in France, and moved to the US for the Master of Engineering and stayed ever since. I studied general math back in France with special quite late, and I started specializing in optimization, hence the AOR part of it. But then I got really interested in data, looked into the different kind of roles, realized as well that I liked software engineering a lot, hence my current title of machine learning engineer. And ever since I graduated from the MEng, I joined a originally very, very small team as employee number 3. So I guess kind of what like Daniel is doing right now, as the everything machine learning person. And in the meantime, we've got several rounds of founding, and now we're a team of 30 people. We work on recommendations. So yeah, my role has evolved quite a lot along the lifetime of the startup. But yeah, everything machine learning is kind of a good summary of what I do. And I think that's it. If I forgot anything, let me know.
Yeah, no, that was a great start. Thank you so much, Anne. And Zach, feel free to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Bradley. Hi, everyone. I'm Zach. I graduated from MEng last year with a degree in mechanical engineering in the concentration in product design. So directly after graduation, I started working at Apple. I have worked now as a design and manufacturing engineer in printed circuit board assembly. So I do lots of manufacturing and design, failure analysis. I get to visit factories and work on building next generation products. And before I came to Berkeley, I got my undergrad at Northwestern, where I was a dual degree major in mechanical engineering and manufacturing and design engineering, and feel very lucky that I ended up where I am now. Apple used to be a startup many decades ago, so maybe not quite as the same thing as what my peers Daniel and Anne are doing, but I still feel honored to play a role on my team there, and work to develop the next generation of products. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself, just helping our new students get to know a little bit about who you all are, kind of where you all came from. So I think the first question and some of you kind of touched upon it a little bit, but maybe a little bit about what you were doing before the MEng program, and like what got you to apply to, like, why did you want to pursue MEng? And I'll say,
do you want to do this like the three of us question?
Yeah. So I'll say, if so it doesn't have to be everybody to respond to every single question, and so feel free to unmute and share. But also, if everybody does want to share, feel free to as well.
Yeah, sure. So I can start off. So prior to coming to the MEng program, as I mentioned, I was doing biomedical engineering at Columbia University. I had actually originally intended to pursue medical school after the undergraduate, and I had fulfilled all my requirements for pre-med, but late in that program, I decided I actually preferred engineering much more than I did, just pure medical side. So there was kind of a pivot that, and I felt like I needed, one, to bolster my bit more of the technical background. A lot of what I studied previously was more on the cell and tissue engineering, and I found that I preferred a lot more the electrical engineering, bioinstrumentation, imaging. So I wanted to get a bit more coursework on that, as well as develop my leadership skills. As I was applying for master's programs, when I saw the MEng program, I was like, this is great, and that's what led me to apply.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Daniel. And it looks like Anne might be having a little connection issue, so she's going to hop on back. And so we can circle back with her around that. Zach, is there anything that you wanted to touch on this question before we move on to the next one?
Sure. Yeah. I would say, I definitely knew I wanted to get a master's in mechanical engineering, something specifically product design related. And then of the programs that I applied to, this was the only MEng program. I'm reading more about the MEng curriculum and realizing this is more focused around the capstone program or projects, and rather than being something research based and having a lot more flexibility in the curriculum, and also getting to do some engineering leadership as well. It just kind of seemed like everything I wanted to do, and also the fact that it's only a 9-month program also really appealed to me, to kind of just get in, get out, and go right into industry, and end up working out. So can't complain.
Thanks so much, Zach. And then I'm going to stop share screen just so folks can see our panelists a little bit better. There we go. And then, oh, there's Anne. So Anne, I'm going to spotlight you again. There we go. Okay, great. So, and so just before we move on to the next question, just wanted to see if there's anything that you wanted to touch on from the first question around sharing a little bit about what you were doing before the MEng program and what got you to apply to this program.
On my side, quite honestly, it was a mix of opportunity and just knowing that it existed. One of my best friend attended the MEng the year prior to me, so I got all of the good info on what it was like. He was having an amazing time. He got a job in the Bay Area. That all sounded great. So for me, it was mostly chance and opportunity. And I don't know if we have French people in the chat attending, but we have this amazing thing that most masters recognize the second year. If you do a master's in a cool place like Berkeley, they will recognize it as your I mean, just opportunity, and absolutely no regrets. This was great. I see that there's some French in the chat. Nice. Yeah, just absolutely no regrets. Great opportunity to meet like a lot of people, be in the Silicon Valley, and well, as experience shows, also get a job, like a cool job in the Bay Area. So that's what brought me here. Technical excellence. I knew it was going to be great, and it was great.
Yeah, no, that all sounds good. And so I think for many of the students, there might be some curiosity, kind of like what they should be planning for. They're about to start graduate school. Some might be coming straight from undergrad. Some might be maybe a year or two, or maybe a few years out from the last time they stepped foot in a classroom. I'm wondering, like, what do you wish you would have known before you started boot camp, or before you even started your technical classes, like the graduate level engineering coursework versus your undergraduate coursework? Maybe what were some differences that you found, and maybe how you transitioned, or maybe some tips or something that you and your friends, worked out, when you were in the program. Yeah, just anything that you can speak to that our current students can maybe kind of weave in as they adjust to classes tomorrow.
So I mean, speaking to my experience, it's a really fast program, and I wouldn't recommend. I don't think you'd be taking. I don't want to put pressure that this is the only way to go into the program, but I don't think it's the best way to take advantage of your time there if you just kind of brute force it and focus only on getting your job done by yourself and not working with other people. It's just like a big part of this program is learning how to work in a collaborative space, and you should really be taking advantage of not only working with your peers, because they're some of the best resources you have, and also it's fun, but also Berkeley is full of really helpful resources, and so you really it's a great opportunity to take that Berkeley and the MEng program. Take advantage of those, see how they can help you not just succeed in the program, but also on the next steps that you're hoping to get to. You don't have to do it by yourself. Yeah, and then I guess in terms of how the classes are, I did it in 2016. I don't know what's changed since then, but compared to undergraduate, there's just a lot of less hand-holding. So you just, nobody's going to be upset with you if you don't show up to class, but it's also, you're kind of not taking advantage of your time there. So it's really on you. But yeah, that would be the main differences. But yeah, take advantage of your peers and the resources available to you.
Well, first I'd say that's a great answer. I think personally I can't stress enough how important leveraging your peers, leveraging your network of the MEng is. I think we've got this amazing chance that the program is small enough that you feel connected to people just from being from the MEng. Like if you meet someone in the street and you learn they did the MEng as well, there's a high likelihood that they'll be happy to share their experience and all of that. But it's also big enough that whatever you're interested in, there's a high chance that someone is in that space and can help you out on what exactly is the space about, what kind of skills you need to pay attention to if you want to break into it. I can't stress enough how useful and how important leveraging both alumni, but also your peers. You'll meet absolutely amazing people during, if I don't know if Shires is still where people hang out, but being in Shires, talking about classes, plans, all of that is a great way to start your year. I also want to emphasize how short the program is. A year seems long, but it will be over very fast if you don't intentionally think about classes and your job search. I would recommend. Actually, what I wish I had known was that it's not critical to get a job fast, but it's critical to think about your job search fast. Things like learning what it is that you don't know, what is the space about. Something like data has so many job titles and so many ways you can be a part of the space. So very soon, I would start talking to people and see what they know, and there's so much you can learn from your peers and from alumni.
Just a little bit more next answers, Daniel.
Daniel, I think your connection might have just cut out. Okay. Okay.
Just
I
went
think you're
through a
back.
tunnel. Yeah, sorry about that. So definitely try and meet as many people as possible from the program. I'm surprised how often I run into my MEng peers just walking around San Francisco these days. Happened this past weekend. It's totally random. So it's fun to have a lot of familiar faces, and these are not only your friends but also your industrial peers. You can find jobs through them and make connections. Also, I'd recommend definitely look into doing extracurriculars outside of the MEng program. There's plenty of resources available on campus for entrepreneurship and business leadership. Highly recommend that. And then one last tidbit is don't sweat it during boot camp. I remember everyone, during boot camp was trying to get their participation points in and was really sweating it out. Really don't worry about it. Just do your best and try to genuinely participate instead of just getting your participation points. You're all going to be just fine. So don't sweat it.
Yeah, no, thank you each of you for your comments. I heard the value of groups and kind of really valuing the group work and the connections, and how part of that allows you to really connect with your peers, and how you make new connections, maybe whether you're learning about different sectors, different industries. Some of you may have or some of the audience members may have heard like 6 degrees of separation. You just never know who might know somebody who you want to get to know. And so it's just really great to just put yourself out there, really connect, and really just, and to your point, just really network. And Zach, just being able to, even just outside the MEng program, you have your MEng community, but you also have the rest of the UC Berkeley community, especially for those interested in the startup realm. There's Skydeck, there's the business school, and a lot of different opportunities that students can really take advantage of. One thing that kind of what we've been hearing is it's kind of how can, I guess, what is the value with learning how to work in a team, while as a student, and how can this translate to post-graduation success? And so what I mean by that is, the communication or the leadership skills that you're learning about in class, but also getting to test out in real time, working on the capstone with others, on something that may be a little ambiguous. There's not a clear point A to point B. It's on your team to come up with something. How do you find that type of experience maybe helpful as when you're out trying to, either when you were job searching and being able to speak to what skills that you're able to offer in addition to your technical expertise? And also, so that's the first part. How do you find that your experience as a MEng student allowed you to almost have kind of like a risk-free environment to test out your leadership communication styles, so that when you were in the real world or the workplace, you kind of had an idea of how to approach that, maybe situations that maybe arise with team conflicts or team disagreements or anything like that. So it's a very long-winded question, but if anything stood out for folks, feel free to share.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to break it down into 2 different questions. So the first one I kind of heard was, how did these leadership and communication skills affect your career? And then the other one is like, what aspects of what you learned did you end up implementing? And why was that helpful? So I'll start with the first one. So, one of the big things when you start working in industry is that there's a lot, you're generally going to be working with a lot of engineers. Those are your peers. But most engineers don't have specific, deliberate communication and team management skills. So that's already a skill set that you won't have, that you will have that a lot of people won't. And it's significant because even though you are going to be doing your own work and generating data or products or whatever it is that you're going to be creating, effectively, you're always going to be working as a team. And more importantly, or not more importantly, but very importantly, an idea by itself isn't really useful unless you're able to share it and have it understood by other people. And one of the crucial things with especially innovations, or when you're trying to do something that people haven't done, is trying to get people to understand something or recognize a process that has never been done before. It's very challenging to express that. And I cannot express how many times I've been put in a situation where you have to convince somebody who, they don't have time to slowly process or digest what it is you're going to be sharing with them. They need it to be as clear as possible immediately, in order to move forward with whatever it is you're doing. And knowing how to tailor your idea to what they need or what they're looking for is really important. There's a lot of aspects of understanding the aspects of what you're doing and also understanding what they need, and putting that information in a package that they can comprehend is vital. And that's after all the engineering work. This is in addition to. And in the MEng program, and so now to the second question, like with anything, there's a lot of things about soft skills that are kind of intuitively learned over time. But with the MEng program, on one part, you get actual practice doing it. This is a space where you can try these things out, like Bradley just shared. But you know, you'll have specific coursework. Like I remember one of the ones that I had was organizational behavior, where you get words or terms or language put to the specific skills that you're going to be using. And, you know, this kind of understanding of how, like, what techniques you can use and what the outcomes should be when they used to do them, use them, and what the outcomes are going to be is something you don't usually get something you don't usually get to understand. Like most people feel that they can do it intuitively, but once you start putting words to it, you can be like, I can tell what's happening here. Let me pull out my bag of tricks on how to help this situation. You know, whether it is that, you know, you're in a team where you have two people who both have very strong opinions and they really want to break them through. You know, how do you manage, you know, what could be either a very tense situation or a very collaborative one, depending on your ability to kind of manage, you know, where people are coming from in the discussion, things like that. You know, it can all help. Yeah, these skills became very handy throughout my career, and it helped me get to leadership positions and find more success, you know, and generally have better relationships with my coworkers. Yeah.
That was very well articulated, and I don't think I have much to add to this. I think something that's interesting to remember is that I think usually we associate these skills around communication and conflict resolution and strategy and ethics and all of that to managers and product managers, or like anything customer facing. In practice, yeah, just going on off of what Daniel said, but even as an individual contributor, these skills are instrumental to get your ideas to be understood, or not, if not understood, get refined based on other people's feedback and actually get transformed from, yeah, what Daniel said about an idea is not useful on its own is quite accurate. And so yeah, nothing more to say except even if you don't necessarily want to have the official position of a founder or a manager, these skills are absolutely going to be useful in your life as an individual contributor. And yeah, I'm personally glad that these ideas were drilled into me right before I go off into the world.
Yeah, you both covered so much. It's hard to add on to that, but I think the few maybe remaining things that I would add are that I was honestly surprised how important communication ultimately is for my particular role. I think convincing people to go a particular way, making an engineering decision, is something that almost matters more on how you communicate your action. You know, putting in that practice and that work to ensure that you're well prepared for presentation, and you know, really trying to envision and predict the what kind of questions can you foresee your audience asking, and already addressing those in the slide. I think you know, the few days that we spent in one of my communications classes on slide design was, you know, incredibly helpful. Putting together a good slide is an underrated skill. And yeah, I'm still learning. You know, I think another big thing that was kind of surprising to me is, for lack of a better word, the politics of working at a big company. You know, you really just have to be convincing and put things in and frame them in ways that people want or are expecting to hear them. So I think it's just a skill that you can start to own in MEng, and then you'll already be, you know, ahead of your peers by the time you enter industry with all this great practice that you're getting.
Yeah, no, thank you all for that insight and just your perspective and just how you were able to leverage the communication skills, the presentation skills, and just overall sounds like kind of negotiating persuasion, and how that's completely outside of just the technical, the items that your projects, or if you're an individual contributor, what you're working on, but how even as an individual contributor, or to founder, you still have so much, and you still have influence, and you still have a voice, in no matter where you sit, within an organization. And it sounds like to kind of just realize that there is that voice that you have, and to be able to hone it maybe in this program has been helpful to you all, especially it sounds like to Daniel, to move up, or to like more of the leadership side from the individual contributor side. Great. So we have a few more questions, but I want to open it up to the audience as well. So for you all, this is really an opportunity, that we wanted to open up for you all as you're about to get started, to be able to ask these fellow esteemed alums, soon to be colleagues, once you all graduate as well, if you all have any questions that you would like to ask this group. And we have our first question. All right, Mason, feel free to unmute and share your question.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you for coming. Your advice was really useful. I wrote down a bunch of stuff, so appreciate it. A couple of follow-ups just on the communication questions, kind of for everyone. So one is just, were there any specific learning moments that you can remember out of curiosity, either in the MEng program around communication, or either in industry for any of you guys? And then, that were sort of personal or that you'd be willing to share. And then also, are there any recommendations that you have around making the best use of the communications training in the program? Thanks.
Maybe to take a stab at part of your first question, Mason. So one of the big lessons that I learned while on the job regarding communication is if you're looking to go and trying to do something somewhat new and maybe a bit unprecedented, and you want to share with the cross-functional team and get them on board with your idea, it's better to individually socialize this idea with the individual members of the team and kind of get their feedback and opinion before presenting it in a broader forum. And that's something I kind of learned the hard way, that I thought I had a great idea. I was going to convince everyone to get them on board, and I had some great evidence to back it up, but more or less, and they wanted to proceed cautiously, and ultimately we ended up not pursuing that idea. So I think that was a big lesson learned. I kind of reflected upon that with my manager. Like, I thought I had some really good evidence for it, but I think it was the way that I went about pursuing it that ultimately is the reason why it didn't succeed. So I learned that one the hard way, and wanted to share that with you so you don't make the same mistake.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can also add some experience there too. Two of the biggest things that helped me were, one was, I remember a lot of the discussions in organizational behavior were trying to help you take a step back and understand, like be able to see what's happening from a conflict standpoint. So you're not feeling something, you're thinking it. So for instance, I remember there was this concept of kazushi that Cass, I'm not sure if he's still teaching there, would talk about, where, there's, I think it comes from judo, this idea that if you have two forces, like trying to butt against each other, it's not going to be the most useful in the discussion to try to, if your goal is to try to achieve what it is you want to achieve, maybe not forcing yourself in there, like to win is not the best one. You might be able to achieve your goal better by allowing them to pass and then guiding them there. And then there was a lot of, further discussion on how this can be implemented or when these situations come in. And so, sometimes I think about that, because say you might have a tense moment with a coworker, or you're not agreeing, and you feel your body start to react. But then, because you've been taught to try you've had a chance to like think about these things beforehand, you're like, wait, you have a chance to move outside of yourself and be like, why am I even arguing this right now? My goal isn't to win an argument. My goal is to achieve whatever the team needs to achieve. So you can find another way to get there. And then the second is, you'd be shocked at how difficult it is to make good slides. I know we talk about slides a lot. It tends to be the form factor we use for presentations. But I mean, we think about like how a lot of people put slides decks, and they kind of treat it as a guide to like a notes for how they give a speech, and they put way too much information up there. And there's a way to use the medium of visual design to help communicate stuff much more effectively. So it's not just your notes up on a screen that you're then reading out. It ends up being something that supports what you're trying to communicate through multiple mediums. So especially when you're trying to share something really challenging, people all experience it in different ways. Some people think about processes like from a visual standpoint, auditory, they have to feel it. And so being able to leverage, both your ability to speak and the other medium to come at it in different ways is really helpful. And so learning the little techniques for how to organize information, that helps a lot too. It also makes your slides much neater and you stand out, because most people don't know how to do that.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's a really great advice. Kind of hearing from Zach, it's kind of like the meeting before the meetings, to be able to kind of maybe get the buy-in to, even though maybe it's the same group, everybody maybe has a different point of hesitation. So how can you address that before you bring it to the larger group to just get the consensus, because it's all the work's already been done beforehand. And then Daniel is just speaking the value of a great presentation. And I think all of us, no matter where we've been, maybe whether it be class or just a workshop we've seen those PowerPoint slides that are just essays that we just get lost in the text, or maybe it's just too much. And so, yeah, I think the value of a really strong visual can be really powerful. And then we have some questions in the chat as well. So I'm just gonna hop into them. It looks like the first one kind of, maybe I'll lump these two together around when you all started applying for jobs, or maybe, and I know Annie talked about, maybe it's not the actual interviewing and everything, but even just the thinking about, which path you want to maybe start on. So for folks who maybe are like, well, I'm not sure yet, I don't know if I can just start applying, this September. How did you kind of get to that point? And then I'll kind of merge this other question just around also connecting with alumni, and how did you expand your network? Like, how did you approach alums while you were in the program, or just start that conversation? So I'll open it to everyone, but maybe Anne, I'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to make sure that when I said, you don't need to have your job immediately, but you can start by being intentional about how you, what the industry is about and what position you have. I would say one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen a lot of my peers do is think about what you want to do on your own. And I think that's the biggest mistakes you can do if you're not sure yet. And even if you are, the power of validating or invalidating assumptions that you have, or hypotheses that you have about a domain, a space, an industry, a role, a company even, is really invaluable. So I would highly recommend, even if you're not ready to actively look for your dream job immediately, starting to formulate hypotheses that you want to validate or invalidate about your space. Like, let's say you know you want to get into data, and you have read the descriptions of data analyst, data scientist, and data engineer, and you have a hunch that data scientist is for you. If I were in your shoes, I would reach out to people that have data scientist in their title and just talk with them. Ask what their day-to-day is about, what kind of skills they use day-to-day, what kind of skills they need for interviewing. And so to me, this process is a very active one. And it's not one day you're gonna emerge from your cocoon and know exactly what you want. I would highly, highly recommend to challenge any assumption that you have. And well, for me, it worked quite well to do that through talking with people in the industry and the networking part. So as a segue into the second question on how would you do it? Personally, I would recommend actively caring about what the other person knows and what the other person can bring you. That's not a referral. Because I think a lot of, and that also joins to why you want to start doing the networking early, is alumni tend to not open up if it's pretty obvious that you're coming to them for a referral or a job. If you come early and are genuinely interested in what it is that the person does, how they got there, what advice they have, you'll make high quality connections. And that is what, well, first will tell you a lot about what kind of role you do want to get into, what the industry is about. But ultimately, these are the kind of relationships that do turn into referrals down the road. And so I would really recommend going to people, even through text. It doesn't have to be through events, although events are invaluable for meeting people casually and initiating a connection. But I've had a lot of success reaching out through LinkedIn. The Fung Institute platform didn't exist during my time, but I'm on there now. And when people reach out with a semblance of a customized message where it seems like they have looked at my profile for a few seconds and have ideas of what to ask me. Personally, I love taking time to answer these questions, and I've had a lot of success when I was on the other side as well. Just asking for a casual chat and getting a lot of information that way. But I think to me, the most critical part is do it before you're actually looking for a job, because people can feel when you're just reaching out for a referral. And companies typically have multiple pathways for a referral of someone from your school and a referral from someone that you genuinely think is going to work out. So I would really focus on quality connections, yeah, just caring about learning about something, and validating and invalidating hypotheses is what worked for me. I think this industry is like this. Is that true? Most of the time it isn't, and that's how you learn.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. And I'll do a quick plug as that. So the FI Connect is the platform that the career development team were promoting yesterday, for folks who maybe saw their cabling yesterday, but you all do have access to it. And it was a great way to connect with alums. So just another really quick, plug to, just utilize the services and resources available to you to get connected and just kind of learn more about different fields and roles and get connected with MEng alums. And thank you so much for sharing just the value of not just the networking, but thoughtful or just an intentional networking, being very sincere with the outreach, and not just maybe blast generic emails to 100 different alums, and how maybe emailing just 5 could have a better return if you're if somebody is investing more time to be able to really get to know how that person got to where they ended up getting to. Zach and Daniel, anything that you would like to add about that question, just around maybe what was your job search kind of as you were gearing up, kind of like when did that start for you? I think Zach, it looks like you helped answer some of these in your chat, so thank you. But just about how that job application process was like, and then also just your tips of maybe how you were able to connect with alums, or maybe when folks reach out to you, what's meaningful for you when you as an alum on the other side, what's meaningful to you that time is a valuable resource, and so how do you feel like, okay, I want to invest time in this conversation with this person?
Yeah, Bradley. So I think honestly, LinkedIn cold messaging is something that I would never recommend. I do my best to try and respond to people that reach out to me. Saw a few of you already added me in this call, so feel free to add me. I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can, but definitely just reach out candidly for advice. I'm happy to hop on a call individually with students from the programs that I've attended, as well as people that are interested in applying for jobs. I'm happy to just give my advice. I would genuinely be surprised how approachable most folks are. It doesn't hurt to just send them a message and genuinely reach out. I honestly, at least in my particular position, I don't think that referrals honestly do that much. So I think there's a lot more to gain from just learning and having a conversation, rather than just directly asking for a referral. And then I guess the other piece of advice that kind of echoes what I said in the chat is definitely make sure your resume is something that you are crafting methodically, and make sure it's really ready to go before you submit it and apply. Like I said in the chat, I applied for 27 jobs at Apple fall semester and never heard back. I'm like, I think I've got good experience, but I wasn't framing it as well as I could have. So learned the hard way and ended up getting some great resume feedback from Alicia Mandak, the Career Services. Highly recommend reaching out to her. She was wonderful and totally attribute all of my success to her. So definitely take advantage of those resources and those excellent people that are willing to help you, and collaborate with them to, get to where you want to be. This worked out for me, it'll work out for you.
All right. Daniel, anything that you want to share before I hop on to another question?
I guess so. This one's a bit stranger for me because when I was in the program, there weren't that many alumni, because I think one of the first handful of years. So, but I will say, from a job searching standpoint, there's such an anxiety to try to get a job. So I think a lot of the initial instinct is to try to cast as wide a net as you can, and people kind of view it as, the more applications I send out, the more likely I'm able to find a job. But I think that's a bit of a trap, because you end up wasting a lot of time, and the more time you want to focus on quality more than quantity. You don't want to just be sending cover letters and applications out to a lot of people, a lot of companies, and their kind of digital web, because all that'll end up happening is that your profile is going to go into this giant list of people. So it's very hard to stand out in that situation. So rather than trying to do that, think about which specific jobs you're very excited for, put the time in, see aspects of your network that can help you connect there. And as soon as a recruiter, whoever's hiring, can put a face to a name, it really increases your chances in getting that job. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you all. Thank you all for sharing. I'm just going to the chat just to see if there are any more questions. But I'm also it's just the turn over to audience too. If any other questions that are folks coming up for folks. And thank you all to our panelists for also joining in on the chat as well. Well, I guess one question, I'm trying to look at the time, and so I want to give you all time to be able to answer this. So I guess maybe this could be our last question or second to last question. We'll see how see how much time we have left. I guess any final parting words, as these folks are about to start off into their journey, whether it be, you all talked about how you kind of transitioned into boot camp and kind of got started with the job search, just any maybe experiences that you had in the program, would it be capstone or something in your engineering coursework or, what have you, or maybe even just outside, or how you adjusted to Berkeley. We have a lot of students coming from outside of Berkeley, and how you adjusted, how you got acclimated, and maybe how you found Berkeley to be home, for the time that you were here. Any advice that you would like to share. So, and as holistic as it can be, any last minute, any last tips that you would have for this group.
Actually, I'll jump in with like a quick advice that's still related to job search. You mentioned about acclimating, and just something that I definitely did wrong regarding job search coming in from a different continent is I had a lot of assumptions about how job search was like, just because I had already gone through it in my home country. I would recommend international students to challenge everything you think you know, because cultural norms are very different in the US, and what's okay in terms of what you can do in an interview, what you can do to reach out, what the job is like. I'd take that seriously for sure. But on the making Berkeley home, I would say it will happen quite naturally. You'll see. I'd say just talking to people, finding your peers. It will happen. Let me check my notes for like a final thing. But yeah, I mean, to me, the two things I really want to drive, the two big messages that I really want to drive home, are the program is really short. Be intentional about it, but also don't stress about it too much. Personally, I started job search very, very late. I mean, I was still doing the networking part of like learning about the job, but I started the actual job searching quite late. Very bad decisions. Don't do that. But it still ended up okay. So while I would really recommend being super intentional and meeting people and doing the work, don't stress too much about it. This is going to be a really great year. You're going to meet amazing people. Make the most of it, but also enjoy what Berkeley has to offer. That's not just academia and networking. So be serious, but also you have time to not be serious.
Yes, I can pop in and offer a few quick words. So definitely try and spend a lot of time on campus around your peers as much as possible. If you're living off campus, it can be easy to kind of just get stuck in your apartment or your house and just be with your roommates. But there's so many awesome people in the MEng program, and people that I still call my friends today. And there's actually a group of about 10 of us or so that will get lunch every so often at Apple from the MEng program. So there's definitely people that beyond the program are going to continue to be a part of your life. So make those connections, reach out. They're not just your peers, they're your friends. People are very friendly and approachable. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. Study groups are a great way to make friends, honestly. So highly recommend that. And also just explore Berkeley. Lots of great food. I kind of miss Berkeley a little bit living in San Francisco now. The weather's perfect, and you know, so much great stuff to do. Maybe go to a concert at the Greek Theater if you can. So highly recommend making the most of it while you're there. And yeah, enjoy it while it lasts, because it'll be fast.
Yeah, I mean, and Zach have covered most of it, so I don't have much to add. I just say it's a very short time. It's going to be very intense, and and there's going to be a lot of pressure to try to take the best advantage of this time as you can. But I'd say,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I'm looking for a off-campus accommodation at UC Berkeley. So I found your advertisement at Cal Rentals. So
Sorry, I
yeah,
think
is there any space available still?
sorry, I think you might have the wrong Zoom. Here, please, you can hang on until at the end of our session, and we'll chat with you. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Daniel.
No worries. Yeah. So, but yeah, I was just gonna say, try not to stress too much on achieving. So there are a lot of ways to skin a cat, and I think everybody's journey through this program is going to be unique and different. And so whatever path takes, that's going to be the right one for you. Just try your best. And the main thing I'd say also is, there's the programs, and there's, trying to get the grades and everything, which is very important. Do your best, but a huge part of it is also, the experience of being at Berkeley, the Bay Area, being with all these really exciting people. All of your peers are all some of the best people in their field. They're super bright, and getting a chance to share that experience with all these people is super unique. And so enjoy yourself, take advantage of this time. It's very unique, and try not to get too stressed out. There's multiple ways to succeed in this space. You guys have already gotten here. You've done a big step, so just do your best and have fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. We can all maybe give a little virtual round of applause or a little emojis to our very lovely panelists. Really great insight, just comments, just sharing your experiences, tips, and all of everything that you've shared so far. I invite all of our students to maybe continue your relationships. I think all of our alums should be maybe in FI Connect, or if not, soon to be. And so yeah, just want to thank you all again, and thank you all for all the current new students for joining. I think some of you might have your department orientations might be happening now or soon. So, you all can hop on over to those. But thank you again to everybody for joining, and take care.